You are a creator. You create your career, your business. You create a family. You create your future. On the Results Driven Life by Design broadcast, get ready to hear from people from all walks of life and how they overcame the odds to create a life led by purpose and vision. Here's your host, Kia Arian.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's broadcast. I always begin by reminding you that your skills, your experiences, and your talents have been given to you for a reason. No one else has that unique combination, and no one else has your voice. You have a message that the world needs to hear. And so, as you listen to today's show, I invite you to a greater vision for a life that resonates beyond what you do, but why you do it. Now, on today's show, I have something very new and fresh for my listeners. Let me give you some context. Most of my listeners and our clients at SINO are Gen Xers, like me. We have reached or passed middle age. We're thinking about retirement, or for the entrepreneurs and the business owners, we're likely still operating with the marketing and business growth strategies that got us to where we are today. There's nothing wrong with that. But something happened between our generation, my generation, and the next, the millennials, and now the Gen Zers who are starting to step into adulthood. The gap between those generations may be static, maybe we're 20 years apart, 30 years apart, but the gap in mindset, in information, knowledge, technology, the energy, even the language of the current times feels like it's hundreds of years apart. I myself have Gen Z and even Gen Alpha kids, so I speak from experience. But I truly believe that because of how fast information is growing, the new generations have been rewired into completely different people. Now, some might say, oh no, this is terrible. I say, no, it's new and it's fabulous and it's a reality that I love. And today's show is going to show you why. So I'm very pleased to welcome Parsa Afsharjavan. Parsa is a visual artist by talent and an experiential brand expert by skill. He is the founder of SINO Art, a company that combines art, design, and video production to create immersive experiences in communication and brand identity. That was a mouthful, but the key word here is immersive experience. He has worked alongside of some of today's leading brands such as Red Bull, Volkswagen, and Pizza, and many more. I have known Parsa since he was very young and have watched him grow into a talented artist and a brand expert doing extraordinary work. And I'm so excited to share his journey and his insights with my listeners. Parsa, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on this program with you today. Thank you for the invite.
Of course, of course. So, Parsa, let's start with you sharing your journey to where you got today and maybe just some of the highlights that were like key turning points to what you're doing and where you are today.
Sure. So I guess this is always a unique question, like tell me more about your story, and the perspective is always unique. So my story begins and my foundation is as a visual artist, as a painter, right? As you can see, one of my paintings behind me right here. And I was keen to drawing and painting and sketching from a very young age, which I'm sure you may have even remembered years ago, drawing cars and different animals and sketches. And, that was just like something that, I just, busied my mind with. And then, I was growing up, I went through the school system, and then eventually I had an experience with depression and suicide attempts and, mental health instabilities. And it was a very deep time in my life. This was during high school time, that kind of it isolated me away from a lot of my friends and family, but also myself. But it allowed me to channel a lot of what I was feeling through art and through creativity and expression, which that opened me up to the world of art and design, essentially. So my experience with, a deep emotional experience opened me up to the idea of using words and images and imagery to communicate with people, but also with myself. Right. And, this was practiced through my own works, through my own productions of artwork, eventually collaborations with other artists and craftsmen, fusing my work with their works. And it came to a point where I saw how people were engaging with what I was producing at a pretty young age of 17, 18 years old, 19 years old, and seeing, that wow, like what I'm producing and the work that I'm creating is resonating with individuals that are far older than me, far progressive than me, more established, XYZ professional. And that really meant something to me. And that was the turning point in my path. I would say that, instead of taking it as just like something that you do for fun, then doing it for like serious, like putting your heart, your mind, and your true dedication to this, and I think my experience with mental health and depression plays a big role in, my approach today and in how we communicate with people, how we implement that into marketing material, not directly, but knowing that the people and the consumer on the other end are human, right? They are going through their own experiences on a daily basis, whether it's personal, whether it's family related, whether it's work related, creative related, whatever it is. It's understanding that first, and then taking in consideration, what we're selling, whether it's a product or a service, like how are we gonna present this? Which brings me to today. As you mentioned in your wonderful introduction, I am a multi hyphenate visual artist and creative director. On paper, I guess you can give it that description. My focus in terms of working with brands and companies is on campaigns, both digital and experiential, and visual design for culturally driven B2C brands, primarily business to consumer brands. Though I have experience working with business to business brands as well, creating more corporate marketing collateral. But I found that where my edge is producing work that speaks to the consumer. So that's where I am today, and a lot of that is understanding the nature of what we're packaging and who we're speaking to, and then taking my experience as an artist and my different mediums of creation that I've been blessed to be able to practice and give the time to nurture and grow to work.
First of all, thank you for sharing that deep human experience of really going and having
Yeah.
you experienced in your teenage, your formative years in high school. And I think that's kind of a remnant or a relic of the speed of knowledge and information that's creating chaos and overwhelm your generation and my kids' generation, and really being able to ground yourself. And how do you ground yourself? um, I have this theory, and I talk about it in other podcasts about the second law of thermodynamics, and how the more information we have, how it applies to how information is expanding, is causing more and more chaos, which is causing chaos in our being, and so which I think is causing a lot of these mental health issues.
Cool.
Um, but the fact that you faced it head on and it shifted something in you,
Mhm.
and then it's that authenticity that is like the foundation of the work that you're doing today,
Exactly. Yeah.
which
It
is
was very inspiring, to see people kind of see value in whatever it is that, I was just seamlessly putting out.
Mhm. And I think that's one of the differences from my generation in marketing and this generation, is that we're all trying to fit into a form that we think the market is going to like by doing all this analysis, this fancy analysis of the market. And there's some value in that. Like, I don't want to crap all over that. I'm not saying don't, but it can't just be that anymore. Now, because of the explosion of information, you've got to come from a place where, like you said, you resonate with people on a human level. And
Mhm.
even I appreciate the fact that you focus on B2C, because I get it. But speaking to my B2B listeners who are mostly B2B, behind the second B, the business to business, are people. And
Yeah.
so, not, and a lot of them are afraid to just open up and talk about the human stuff. They won't always be so professional. They want to fit into that nice, clean, squeaky clean professional mode. And they're finding it's like hitting deaf ears, because the people on the other side are human to begin with. So different challenges there, but they're still human and they still want to be spoken to as if they're human. Tell me about the first, you said that you realized you were doing it for fun and you realized that people were engaging with your work and it was resonating with them. What's one of the moments that stands out to you? Like you're like, oh wait, I'm like, this is actually making a difference. Can you share an experience or a specific time?
So I think there were two cases where I think it was when I sold my first painting. and regardless of who it was, it was just the idea that, somebody wanted a piece of a piece of me, that was a very interesting feeling. It was a very interesting exchange almost, like, and especially what the nature of the work too was. It's like, wow, this is very unique. But I think beyond that is kind of is taking it back to the roots of my foundation as an artist, as a visual artist, is my my studio art teacher, my AP studio art teacher at the time. He I think he recognized, he saw something in me, and that was during a time where I was, self-isolating, and I had him as a teacher, and he would see my assignments in my art assignments, and he would see that I was like really, taking my time with it and really focused on it. And I think he called me out too, and he invited me to spend more time in his class, during lunch periods, if I want to continue working on any paintings, anything like that, like kind of just like nurture this passion that you're developing, right? Don't resist yourself from it, kind of. So he I think he opened me up to that, I guess, how do you say, the connection to my reservoir as an artist, because it's a very vulnerable connection, as an artist in this day and age, especially in our culture, being Iranian, deciding what your career path is, what your life looks like, all these things. I definitely did take an unorthodox path. Um,
You're expected to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer,
yeah, one of the three.
or an entrepreneur, which
Or
you
an
ended up being.
entrepreneur. Yeah, or an entrepreneur, and you open up your own law practice, and you open up your own, like, so it's like, so it was at that time, it was like a very it was like, wow, like I need to own up to this person myself, this being, as like an artist or a creator, and because nobody else will value me, right? If I don't value myself as who I am, as what I do, and today, especially as a business owner and a consultant on the other side, then how do you expect a client to value what you do, what you create? That's very important. You mentioned something about trust earlier, which is something that, in the early stages of when I'm developing relationships with new clients, is really focusing on that trust, right? Especially when it comes to brand identity and visuals, photography, videography, XYZ. In my mind, that's the first impression that you have with the consumer, between, the host and the consumer. So we want whatever that is to create trust in the consumer's mind. They need to be able to trust you before they spend any money with you or any time with you. So that's a big factor.
So so tell me an example of, like, how do you create that trust? How do you initiate that?
I think it's through clean and clear work, right? So having very, like, professional work, but also communication, very clear communication. If it's any work that requires any photography or video, having very strong copywriting that very clearly explains and expresses, what the intention is of that material, and, just being very, very clean with it, right?
Mhm.
Just not doing a messy job in the deliverable process and in the production process, and especially in the communication process before all that with the client.
I love that. Okay, let me ask you this about something you mentioned
Mhm.
about your in your art teacher, and then I want to talk a little bit about your actual work, like
Yeah.
what you're doing. So, what I loved about what you said about, I asked you what was the shift that took place that you realized things resonated, was that one, someone bought a piece of, like, someone bought your artwork and you were like, wow, like they,
Mhm.
and you've sold many more since then at premium, like high dollar amounts. Go you. And you've done artwork like you've been commissioned to do um, artwork in Miami, and I don't even know, like, over, like, where have you done your art that you've been commissioned for?
Uh, a lot. I've definitely done a lot of projects in Florida and Miami. When it comes to like art integration or mural work in certain locations, I've done that. Philadelphia, here in the DC area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Um, Mostly domestic, yeah, domestic areas, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so right, so that's grown. So from selling your first and then being commissioned to do these amazing pieces of art that communicate what your client wants communicated. And then having someone come into your life and say, what you're doing is making a difference. And so you are able to see the true value of what you bring, not just to the marketplace, but to the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's so pivotal. And I think, and that's what I've observed as, kind of having this broad view of, business people from when I started, which was, like 20, 25 years ago,
Mhm.
to now, and like seeing into the future.
Yeah.
People have truly lost their sense of who they are and their value because they see there's so much like counterfeit connection. There's so much counterfeit illusion of, look at this life that I'm living that's amazing. And it truly isn't. And people are just sick and tired of it. So rediscovering that what you bring to the world is important. The size of it doesn't matter. And I have this, okay, I'm talking too much. Let me just finish this thought. The
Yeah.
size of it doesn't matter because the same power and awesomeness that exists in a single atom exists in the whole universe. So
Well
it
said.
doesn't matter, right? So really bringing that back to brand development, bringing that back to messaging for business people. And it starts with us. It starts with the entrepreneurs, the builders, the creators. It starts with the artists because we understand the value of creating.
Sure. Of
Whereas
course.
everybody else is like, what can we do to copy whatever? How can we compete and keep up?
Yeah.
Stop it. Create. So okay. So that leads me into what you do, which is called this immersive brand development. I want to know about that. Tell me a little about that. Maybe like give me an example of a recent project that did that.
Sure. So that as a multi-hyphenate visual artist and a creative director, I I've gained a lot of different experiences and a lot of different skill sets, playing these roles, playing in different hats and, gaining different experience but ultimately it's all creative utility. In my mind, these are all, if you imagine the Swiss Army knife, one project, you need to use three of those tools. In one case or for one project or another client, maybe you need only one of those tools, that's I think the strongest element of what we do is being so interdisciplinary, and being versatile in a way where we can truly work with clients as a creative partner, and work with them on need base, like what are your needs, and we can attack from there. So when you ask about the experiential design, those are certain packages, and I like to call them ad vehicles that I create and I develop for a range of brands. Some of them never see the light of day. Some of them have been materialized, and some of them maybe have gone up the chain and just never nothing had happened. But if you ask me, I confidently say that some of my best work is in some of those undeveloped pitch decks that have never materialized. But at the same time, it's like maybe I'll always say that. Maybe I'll always say my best work has yet to come. Who knows? But one example is, so taking a company or a brand, and I'll give you a direct example. And this is kind of stemming back on the humanitarian work that I kind of like I've dedicated my work, and my dedication to myself as an artist to is that. So there's an organization called Our Minds Matter. They're a nonprofit organization that operates nationwide, and they work directly with middle school and high school systems that they produce, and they create student-led support systems that advocate mental health awareness and suicide prevention and after-school programs to have like the youth community come together and connect and find inspiration together, rather than kind of isolate themselves. So exactly what brought me out now exists as a nonprofit organization, and they are based in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And they reached out to me a couple of years ago, and they said, we love the work that you do, and we've heard your story through some other people in the community, and we would love to see like how we can develop a project together or a campaign or some sort of initiative that we can apply as a fundraiser or an awareness to our organization. I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Let's definitely do this. And the result of that was a project by the name of Cycle for Life. And Cycle for Life was a summertime campaign for Our Minds Matter that we developed. It was myself and two other locals from the Maryland area. I actually went to high school with them, ironically. And the idea was a cross-country bicycle journey from Seattle, Washington to Washington, D.C. And the whole bicycle journey, it was mapped out to be about a 75-day journey. which covered, video coverage, photography, and also pit stops along the way where I went out and we had programs with different schools and student body groups. We connected with them. We made some interviews with some of the students in Oklahoma and in Utah, and it was a very unique experience. And the organization was able to raise a significant amount of funds through the 75-day campaign, and all the footage that we took, I developed a documentary around. And then the strategy was, once we had a finished product, we would then host a screening in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area where locals and families that are involved can come and they can watch the film and be a part of it. So that was, as an experiential campaign, it had about three different tiers. It had the bike ride component, it had the visual component, and then the live screening component with the question and answer. So that's one example of, a certain experiential strategy that we create and we produce for some brands and organizations. It's always different, so it's the idea is having people engage and feel something. Like you said, the traditional newsletter, monthly newsletter it's great, and that's bulletproof. It's always going to work. Anytime we see a notification, we'll pick up the phone. But then this day and age, and I think what you touched back on is, the gap in the perspective of what we do is valuing our engagement and our experiences in life, and not being so kind of transactional, though money is always a part of it. You're always going to sell something, right? But not be so upfront about it. Have the experience be what creates value and creates that trust, and then that person will, work with you or buy your product.
Yes, yes. Everything that you said. So,
Yeah.
so let me just kind of give some context around this to some of my listeners. I'll use myself as an example.
Yeah.
With the models that we follow now, so at Zine, we have capture that message, right? And I'm on board with you that message needs to resonate on a deep human level. So, and that's one thing that we do is when we go through the brand discovery process,
Yeah.
and we pull out the thing that makes you so valuable and unique, your genius, which you discovered at a young age. But a lot of people who are like later in their business, they're just sort of still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And the sad thing that I've observed is that many people think that the thing that they bring to the world has no value. And part of that is because we're so inundated with everybody doing great things, we think we're just top liver. And the other part of it too is that it comes so natural and easy to us. We think, of course, it's like, why would I charge for it, right? Because it's just so that's part of it. So our process is, no, let's pull that out of you and let me give it form and function so you can see how
Yeah.
valuable and amazing and unique that is. And our form and function is print marketing,
Yeah.
newsletters, magazines, any kind of print asset. And that's what we love. That's what we do. But your form and function is just this like this immersive experience where you don't not only come up with the ideas of what to do, but you do the video, you do the movie, you do the production, you do the promotion, like whether it's print or whether it's digital or anything that like you just bring all that together into one. But you also bring in, like, what did you call it? You said it wasn't transactional, which means that it's relational,
Yeah.
which means that you bring in the human element because you naturally have that in you. I think that's extraordinary. I think that's it's such a nuance in marketing and brand approach, but it's so powerful. And I really hope that my listeners really understand that, because it really, really is. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Cool.
Parsa, I'm gonna,
Sorry to cut you off, but and to play devil's advocate, that can also, play as a crutch to me at times too, which I've recognized, how I position myself and how my work positions itself. It at times, which I've realized and I've even been told, is it can also be difficult for people to see how they can work with me, because they see, oh, this guy, and he has such a understanding of everything that needs to be done, right, from the beginning. How can we work with him? So those are times that require, look at what I said, the collaboration and having the open communication and showing them, listen, no, we don't have everything figured out. We have a solid roadmap, right? We can make it better. We can enhance it. We can make it more you, right? But the ultimate point is, like, let's create something unique and let's create something that people can connect with.
Yeah, and that's another instructive point that I want my listeners to hear. I suffer the same thing. So what is that? It's that saying that says the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right?
Yeah.
The work that we're so good at for other people, we struggle with ourselves. So for you to communicate your essence, your value, the thing that you can do it so well for other people. But when it comes to you, you're like, damn, how can I help this?
Yeah,
I'm the same. I'm the same. And that's why we really need each other. That's why we're not in like we're not working in an island. We're not so siloed. And just because I'm good at what I do for you doesn't mean that I'm good at what I do for me. And that's the business we're in, to see the value that you bring, give it form and function, and communicate it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. That's like doctors don't do surgery on themselves. Lawyers don't represent themselves. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or doctors don't perform surgery on their family members. Like you cannot have an objective view of yourself.
Biased. Yeah. It's
That's awesome. All right. So I think we can talk about this for hours and hours and hours. I know we're coming to the end of our time. I'm going to shoot some questions to you. Just you can answer them as quickly as you want to or can. And then I want you to share with my listeners how they can stay connected with you, how to find you, how to reach you, see your work, see your message. Sound good? Okay. So tell me, what was the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome? And you may have already mentioned that. What was the biggest challenge? How did you overcome that? And then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, but brief answers. What was the biggest challenge you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome it?
um
Career or personal, whichever one you want.
so we're gonna go with career, and I'm gonna say if it's not the if I would say change orders. Change orders, especially like when you're doing live work or anything that's like, very quick, or installation based, building anything that is like to speculation or specification, sorry. Any change orders and having, the process that goes in dealing with change orders with clients, just make sure that everything is clear beforehand. So so nobody is like feeling any certain way, when any changes to your project or to your scope of work comes about.
So is that a challenge you continue to face, or is that something you've overcome?
No, I think that's something I've overcome by
How
now.
did you do that?
Just like being very transparent in the communications beforehand. Obviously, like having service agreements. Anything that we do for a client, we send a service proposal that lists out, exactly what the deliverables would be, what the structure of the relationship would be, whether it's a one-time project or a continuous relationship or some sort of partnership. And then once everything is okay with that and the client agrees with all those terms and such like that, we then send them a service agreement, which, very clearly explains, SINO Art LLC will deliver this, list to you and all the terms and, XYZ, so all those stuff. So just making sure all those things are nice and clear ahead of time is great. And just making sure that we have agreements with people that we work with.
That's a great advice, and I think that's a challenge that any business owner
Yeah.
faces when they scale their business. You start out, you want to do everything, you want to please, but at some point you're like, whoa, like this is not what I signed up for.
Yep.
And I think the lawyers, like I have a lot of lawyers that we work with, they figured it out from the get-go. They will, like most of them, they know, like, okay, we are not, everything gets billed or everything gets tracked, and good for them. But there's still some who like they give away stuff anyway. But that's great. That I think that's a universal scaling thing that you've really got to define the requirements if you want to be able to, establish the value that you do. Don't give away your
Yeah,
goods.
exactly.
Money exchange, and you alluded to this earlier, that you've got to figure out the financial, you got to figure out the money exchange, because, and I've said this before in previous podcasts, it's not because you want, like you're like, oh, greedy, want the money. It is an energy exchange.
Yeah.
Really is. Money is currency. There's an energy that gets exchanged, and the bigger the money, the
Yeah.
bigger the bandwidth, the
Yeah.
bigger the energy exchange. So that's really important.
Goes back to when I sold my first painting, that it released, some sort of chemical in my mind of, of that exchange. So yeah.
It's important. Yeah, it's what you're
Yeah.
depositing into the
Yeah.
world that
It
you're
is.
making. All right, let me ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
What advice would you give your younger self?
I would say there's going to be a lot of attempts to dull your light, and just have faith and have fun in what you're doing, and the rest will come.
I love that, and that's exactly right. And that's what I would have, knowing Parsa now and knowing Parsa then. That's what I would have told younger
Yeah.
Parsa. that, you know what, it's going to feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel
Yep.
sometimes, and you really just have to take the next step. That's it. Just show up. Just show up. And it's gonna unfold.
That's half the battle is showing up.
That really is.
Whether you order the drink, that's the next battle.
I love that. Awesome. Well, that is a great place to wrap it up, is to just really show up and everything will work out fine. So everything will work out great because life is for you, not against you. Parsa, thank you so much for just your insight, sharing your skills, your talents. So valuable. I really enjoyed this conversation. How can people stay connected with you, see some of your work, maybe reach out to you?
Yeah, this was incredible. I had such a great time as well. Thank you. The best way to stay connected, probably live would be like in the moment would be Instagram at Parsino, Parsino. I showcase a lot of my work and my active, projects there, and kind of plant seeds for things that we're working on. So that, and then my website is SINO Art, spelled SEENOART.com. And yeah, look forward to connecting with anyone and possibly working together.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I really encourage listeners to go and check it out. Check out his artwork. He's got amazing merch on there, very unique, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with you. So thank you to my listeners for tuning in. And again, my name is Kia Arian, reminding you once again that your skills and your talents have been given to you for a reason. There are people who stand to benefit from what you offer, and there are the others who you are not called to help. Focus on the former group. They're waiting for you.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, subscribe to the show, connect with Kia on LinkedIn, and let her know what inspired you. This broadcast was brought to you by Zine, a marketing and brand development agency that helps attorneys, entrepreneurs, and professional service providers create raving clients who love them, stay with them, and tell others about them. Visit zinemarketing.com/newsletter to sign up and receive the Breathe Life newsletter, a print publication of Zine.